Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the afternoon regular council meeting of Tuesday, October the 12th. This meeting is being recorded live and is streaming on the District of Summerland YouTube channel at youtube.com, District of Summerland. All representations to council, written or verbal, will form part of the public record and be available to the public for viewing electronically or as a written record. Members of the public may access the meeting or participate in the following ways. Individuals who you can attend council chambers in person. Individuals who wish to do this may do so by registering in advance of the meeting by contacting the corporate officer at corporateofficer@summerland.ca to ensure there is enough space in council chambers. You can watch the meeting live or recorded at District of Summerland YouTube channel. You can request to speak during the meeting. If you have not registered in advance but wish to speak during the public comment opportunities, you can do that time permitting. After I have provided everyone who has pre-registered with an opportunity to comment, the floor will be open to those in council chambers and those on the conference line. Conference line can be accessed by dialing 778-907-2071 and entering meeting ID 506-489-9374 and passcode 485186. Are there any late items to introduce, corporate officer?
There are no late items for this agenda.
Thank you. So approval of the agenda, please. Councillor Barkwell, Councillor Holmes, all in favor? Great. Good to see you, Councillor Traynor. And then adoption of the minutes, September the 27th Committee of the Whole and the regular afternoon meeting. If it all looks good, Councillor Carlson, Councillor Barkwell, thank you. All in favor? Good, thank you. And now on to delegations. We have two today, beginning with BC Ambulance. Joe Puskarich, District Manager. Thank you. Patient care delivery. Please go ahead and thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Sorry, I'm just trying to take my, there we go. Well, yeah, thank you very much. And thank you for the invite. I'm excited to be able to share this new deployment news with everybody here regarding the Summerland Station. So on November the 30th of this year, the Summerland Ambulance Station will be staffed with 8 full-time permanent regular paramedics in that working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This includes 6 new permanent jobs at the station with regular pay, schedules, and employer benefits. The station currently has only 2 full-time paramedics now, so there'll be 6 more added to that. These 8 positions create a full-time coverage at the station for 24 hours, 7 days a week, a first for the community. With these full-time positions, it's expected we won't need to rely on availability of on-call paramedics in the community, who often have other employment obligations to juggle with on-call work. We can better attract paramedics to the community, recruit them, and retain them there. And just on a side note, we all 8 positions unofficially have been staffed. We're just waiting for the formal letters to go out to everybody to indicate who those employees are. There are 2 ambulances dedicated to the Summerland Station. The 8 full-time paramedics will be staffing the 1 main ambulance 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. A second ambulance, referred to as the Kilo car, will continue to be staffed on by on-call paramedics. There are currently about 15 paramedics on the on-call roster in the community. The changes at the Summerland Station are being echoed across the province in BCHS's move away from our historical reliance on on-call paramedics to more permanent staffing models, especially in rural and remote communities. A little closer look at the community's medical emergency response calls. The medical emergency call volume in the community is quite steady. No dramatic increases in the community surrounding Summerland. The community generates about 120 medical emergency calls a month, or about 4 or 5 calls a day. In 2021, the first 6 months, the station did 690 calls. In 2020, 1,427. 2019, 1,360. And in 2018, 1,476 calls. These are positive changes to the community in terms of medical emergency coverage and paramedic staffing stability. In closing, I'd like to report back to you after the changes are in place for a while to let you know the positive impacts that this has made for the people calling for an ambulance. So that's it for my presentation. I'm open for any questions or comments at this point. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you also for offering to revisit us with the results of these positive changes for our community. Thank you. Councillor Carlson.
Thank you for that. I'm wondering what the actual service area is for the Summerland station. Does it go like Falder and Meadow Valley? Does it go to Peachland? Do you have that information offhand?
Yeah, generally speaking, because we're a provincial ambulance service, our resources are moving continuously around the area. So our local ambulances, if they're stationed in the station and they're available, they could respond to a call in and around the community. They could respond into a totally different community if they're out and about. Our cars are also, a lot of our ambulances, it may be not necessarily the Summerland station that will respond to a call in the area. It may be a call returning back from, say, Kelowna, the Kelowna General Hospital. They're on their way back. They're clear. They're available. The uniqueness about our service, and being that it's a provincial ambulance service, we have the ability to send whatever resources required to get there as quick as we possibly can. And now, with that being said, having more full-time regular ambulances on the road, our challenge, we won't have as much staffing challenges to keep those cars on the road. We're hoping that with these new changes, and it's not just Summerland, Oliver, for example, is another station that's going to go 24 hours, that this will help with that coverage in all communities at, within the response area, also outside the response area. Often, as you know, we don't have a hospital in Summerland, so any calls that we do in Summerland, the ambulance would then go to Penticton, and then on their way back, they could actually be doing calls in and around Penticton area. But we always try to maintain. That's why we have a secondary on-call car in the community that's available and ready to go when that other car is busy.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Any other questions? Councillor Barkwell. Thank you, Councillor Holmes.
So is this going to reduce response times, I would assume, and if so, do you have an estimate of how much?
Yeah, I don't have an estimate of much, but you're correct. One of the reasons that we're doing, well, there's 2 reasons we're actually doing this, and I said it in this comment here, is that we're trying to improve, staffing in these cars so that our response times are hopefully improving with that, as well as providing, stability for the workforce. So if we have a full-time car at the station, we know that these are full-time people that own these positions. They'll be working there. The cars should always be staffed, and therefore our response time we should see an improvement in those response times. And that's why I would like to, come back at a later date to see, how much of an improvement this is actually making in the overall response.
Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, thank you. I was just wondering about the 15 on-call paramedics currently in the community. Do they remain on-call paramedics? What happens to them, or are they not needed now that it's staffed full-time?
No, they still will be needed for 2 reasons. One, they still have to staff the on-call car, the Kilo car that I had mentioned. That car is still in service 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So that they'll still have the opportunity to staff that car, as well as the full-time car now. And this is the other good thing about this full-time deployment with this car. When that time comes, when one of those full-time paramedics are off on vacation, or they book off sick, or they're, for whatever reason, they might be in education or something. So that shift is now available, and that shift would be available for that on-call staff that works at the station. And if they, due to this, through the process of scheduling, that person working, that employee that's working that regular full-time spot now would actually be paid for the day for working that car as a spare board. We call it a spare board shift. So it's a win-win. It's a win-win for the on-call staff that are working there. They work the kilo car, but they can also have opportunities to work that full-time position when that full-time person is off for whatever reason, and they'll get paid for the full coverage for that day, for working that day.
Councillor Trainer or Councillor Patton, any questions?
I'm good. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. All right, not hearing anything from Councillor Trainer, I will assume that she doesn't have any questions either. And thank you again for attending this. And we look forward to getting some updates in a few months.
Yeah,
Thanks so
I
much.
would, thank you. And yeah, maybe in about 6 months from now, if you can send an invite, I'd be happy to come back and just give you an update on how everything, as you can appreciate, we're going through a large transition phase right now provincially. It's a logistics and HR, you know, I wouldn't say complication, but it's going to be difficult just to get all this happening all at once over the next few months. So I should have a pretty good idea in 6 months of what that will look like. Okay.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Our second delegation today comes from the Summerland Chamber of Commerce regarding Light Up Summerland, and the President Ron Kubek and Director Paul, is it Biro or Biro?
Byron.
Biro are with us here today. Please go ahead, gentlemen. Thank you for attending.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. We thank you for the opportunity to come back and resubmit a proposal for Light Up Summerland 2021, along with the request to add 2022 to it. As you know, we had presented to Council late August, and things changed because of COVID at that time. So we've gone back and reworked on it, and I'm going to let Paul speak to it. Paul is he's the vice president and operating partner for Sakamoto Talent Agencies, running festivals across Canada, and also a tour and have agents that they look, or clients that they look after. But Paul was responsible for last year's drive around Summerland. You've got the proposal there in front of you. So Paul, maybe if you want to just talk a little bit about this year's changes. They've already gotten what we did last year, but maybe just talk about what we're going to do this year from December 4th to the 18th.
Thanks, Ron, and thank you, Mayor and Council. I know that we're kind of on a time crunch here a little bit, so I'll try to move it along. This year, different than last year, we would have more activities downtown. Having listened to the last council meeting, it sounded like we wanted to do something for Light Up, but we wanted to control the amount of people. If you say we're going to do something downtown directly, it'll be impossible to control the crowds. This will enable us to get, we had about 1,000 cars go by last year, to get, you know, that similar kind of activity through the community. And then if downtown is open and we have some extra carolers, the Santa downtown, some things that we're going to talk to the Museum and Arts Council if they want to be involved, some additional activities, as well as making sure all the businesses are open, and some were open last year, then I think that that will just draw on people naturally and very organically. And then the other 2 days are basically sipping shops like we've done before to hit that 3-day kind of request from council on the last meeting. And so they're very, you know, they're things that tailor mostly for our local people, but still also show that Summerland is open for business during COVID. And, you know, it's a really safe and I mean, our drive-by last year was incredibly well received, and, you know, we did it ourselves. I don't know if there's any more questions than that. I think you've all seen the proposal.
Council, questions on these 3 days?
Madam Mayor, if I may?
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. I have to agree, last year's drive-by was phenomenal. I know Julie and I were in the lineups, and
we found that it was not as good as our light ups are, but in basis of what we're currently in with our pandemic, I think this was a great option. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Patton. Did it remind you of Candy Cane Lane in Edmonton?
Oh, this was far better than Candy Cane Lane, Madam Mayor.
I
I've
think
done
so
a
as well,
Candy
Doug.
Cane Lane in Edmonton too. Thank you. Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, thank you. So I guess my concern is that we're being asked to support events that have traditionally supported themselves. Now, so perhaps we're being asked to support a kind of a more supplement, a bigger kind of sip and shop, or a bigger drive-by light up than happened before, because Festival Lights isn't going on. But so next year, when Festival Lights is back on, my question is, will we still be expected to support the subsequent light up events, because there'll be that expectation that they'll occur again?
Madam Mayor, if I may answer the question, at the last council meeting, as you know, with the change in the chamber's contract on a fee-for-service basis, yes, some of this was covered in the former fee-for-service, but we were told for anything going forward that we would come back and do proposals like what we have here. That was what was done, as Councillor Holmes is aware of. At the last council meeting, it was also suggested by some members of council and the CAO that we look at a 2-year program doing the light up for next year, so that we can know in advance of what's going on, and that we do it for this year. So we are responding to what council did, and this is a fee for service because of the change in the contract that you had with the chamber, and that's why this has come back before you.
May I make one additional comment?
Of course, please go ahead.
I think as well, we probably wouldn't have done drive-by this year unless people really reached out to us, and we may or may not keep it alive for next year. Really, it's a response to not having Festival of Lights, which myself and my family, my organization are hugely supportive of regularly. So it may not come up. Again, it's on a per basis. And this is kind of exactly what was requested by council last time. Anyway, so that part may not happen. But.
Do you have a follow-up, or you good?
No, thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, Councillor Carlson.
Thanks for bringing this forward and for actually taking it seriously, the comments that we made last time, because I actually like what I see here. I know last year during COVID, people missed light up, and I know this year that they will also miss the traditional light up, but the work that you did to put that drive-by light up on was, it was really exciting, and people came from all over the place, and they didn't just come on one night to our town. So I think that you'll see great value by promoting this over a 3-week period. And people will continue, right, all the way up to Christmas, coming and looking and driving by lights. One of the questions I have, though, is when it comes to an event like this last year, it was very, organic, and you just sort of did it. If the District of Summerland now sponsors or sanctions something like this to happen, and we're seeing thousands of vehicles driving on our roads close to each other, do we now need to be talking about what that liability looks like? I understand that, we would be holding the insurance for the actual downtown events, but when it comes to sponsoring something like this, is there something that we need to consider before actually saying yes to being the ones who do it? That may be a question for the CAO.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Carlson, and through the mayor. I think there is some more conversation to have if council were to give a nod to this, just some additional planning and making sure that we do everything, do everything well and safely. Typically, I know it's in the proposal for us to fund the insurance, but in the past we haven't. So that's something that council would need to consider. But in any case, I think we would all be concerned that we make sure it's a safe event and our liabilities are covered off, and working with the chamber. I know they also want to ensure safety and enjoyment to the event as well. But if we get sort of agreement in principle today, that would be the next steps to sort of discuss the details of how it would roll out in those days.
And those details would, I'm assuming, involve collaborating with our fire department and the RCMP on safety aspects, right?
That's right, Madam Mayor. And
Yeah.
I had an initial discussion on this with key staff just prior to the long weekend, but some staff couldn't be available, so we would be continuing. But on the initial conversation with some of the key staff, like our public works folks and community services and others, we all think this sort of hits the mark in terms of a safe event this year, should council choose to do so.
Yeah, I certainly am happy with what I see here. Are there any other comments or questions for the chamber? Councillor Trainer?
Yeah, thanks to the chamber for bringing this back. I like that there's options, and I like that there's 3 different nights that people can choose from. So, that way we're not having all the crowds on one night. It gives people an option, and it also kind of goes along with their comfort level as well. I definitely like everything that you guys have planned. I think that there'll still be a really good event. I'm just wondering if you've gotten any feedback yet from the businesses downtown, and I assume they're all on board with this, and just wondering if you've had any thoughts from them at all yet.
And if I can answer that, Ron, the businesses that I talked to last year, which were primarily the service businesses, were all very excited about it. And I've had some brief conversations now with them, but not saying too much until we brought it to council again. And most of them are really open to it. And I think with COVID, they're even more open to it. Ron, go ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Trainer. After the August council meeting, I had a large number of businesses reach out to me and were asking what we were going to do, and we did this. And thank you, Councillor Carlson, for recognizing that we did do a lot of work on this. So we've had people reach out to us and they're looking forward to it. We've had people asking what it's going to be. The map will be up for a longer period than just those 4 nights. But we think that it's going to be one of the things that will let people see that there's a safe way that we can go about providing that Christmas spirit in Summerland in a COVID environment.
Yeah, no, I think it's really great. Thanks a lot for that. And I hope that it goes well this year, which I think it will.
May I make one more comment on it?
Yeah, please go ahead.
I got people emailing me up until the 24th last year asking for the map. So it was really used, and we would see people drive by our house like all season. So I think it's really a great option for bringing people into town, right?
I have a question about the drive-by light up event to look at the houses. Is that planned? Is there going to be that as part of the December 4th activities, or will it start after that?
Do you want to go ahead, Ron?
No, go ahead, Paul.
It's kind of part of it. Like it is just part of it, because naturally what will happen is the map ends with people driving downtown, and that's how I built it last year, so people would see downtown. So as they drive into town at different times, they might go, oh, we should stop by the Beanery. We should stop by Maple Rock. We should stop and, oh, let's look in this store. Or, hey, there's carolers, whatever. So I think that it will happen throughout the night kind of organically. And that's why it's designed that way, to reduce crowds, but it will all be part of it. The whole night will be this whole thing.
Thank you. And then a follow-up to that question is it your expectation or I guess maybe in the conversations that you've had with downtown service businesses, that they will also be open from 3 to 7 on the December the 4th day as well? Or was it just for the sip and shop specifically?
It's one of those things that we're still in discussion in terms of a
Okay.
planning process with. We didn't want to get too far ahead on that. We've been working with Bottleneck Drive as a member of Bottleneck Drive, but also dealing with their president in terms of Bottleneck Drive is repurposing their event to make it a much more controlled event. So it's all by appointments only for all the wineries this year versus what it used to be done in the past, which if you had gone, it was, we were all quite happy to move to a reservation event for us. And so those are just part of the discussions that we work. We've had people reaching out already who want to have wineries be at their shops. We've had different ones, but it's all going to, we didn't want to go any further until after we had this meeting and we knew where we were going from council.
Okay, great. So it's just a matter of getting consensus from council to move forward on the 4th, 11th, and 18th. Please go ahead, Graham.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I do note that the proposal envisions a 2-year sort of funding horizon. So I think it's a decision of council if they want to focus on this year's activities and then hear more maybe through the grant and aid process on the next year, or if it's in fact the desire of council to provide funding to both years as requested in the proposal for the maximizing of the planning horizon for next year. But it's one thing we haven't touched on that we probably should.
Okay. Council, do you have comments on whether we're just going to look at this or look at them both, or how did you want to manage this given the time constraints? I mean, 6 weeks away. Councillor Holmes.
Well, I'd certainly be prepared to give a green light for this year. I think for next year, might be worth having a broader discussion of how we support these kind of events like Action Fest as well. We've talked about that in the past, that, how do we support these festivals in this community? And they're important to the community, all of them. And it's about, rather than looking at each one in isolation, piecemeal the way we do, let's look at them all together and figure out a budget line item for festivals. I've been saying that for a while, but I'm happy to proceed whatever way.
Okay, Councillor Traynor.
I was just going to ask if we can do them in two separate motions, I guess, like deal with this year and then deal with next year.
But today?
Well, I guess so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get an understanding.
I think that's what the chamber was looking for. I mean, I think I think that we're all on board with this year for sure. And I know that needs to be dealt with right away. And then I'm not sure about the second one, whether that motion is to hold it for a bit or what, but I'm definitely prepared to put something on the table for this year.
Okay, let's just hear from the other councillors. Councillor Barkle.
Our CEO sort of referred to, and I'm only speaking to this year at this time, sort of an agreement in principle, because there's one item that is a big unknown for us, and that's the insurance. And I don't know if we can sort of give how to approach that, and how to give approval to something where that is an unknown, that maybe it has to come back once we know whether it's going to be $500 or $10,000 or something.
Are you're referring to this year's proposed events? Yes. Lori, do you know Well, maybe you don't. I'll ask the chamber because they should know what the costs of insurance in previous years. Now I realize that you're looking at light up, full-blown light up. But have you had any quotations on what the insurance costs may be? Because typically the district doesn't pay the insurance costs.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We don't have a cost on this year because it's a drive up. So a lot of the people driving would be covered under ICBC. I mean, there's the event, their businesses have their sip and shop. And again, I understand that, it's not something that council covered in the past, but it was also something that council, through the funding of the chamber under the original funding amount, that we were able to cover that. With the change to the fee for service contract and the request for us to come back with a 2-year proposal from last time's meeting, that was always something that was going to be on staff side. And that's what I had relayed to the CAO in our numerous conversations. So we think it's very minimal this year because it's really not anything that's an event. The sip and shop, obviously business owners have their insurance. The light up happens on the streets. Those are your street poles. And for the rest of it, it's really covered by ICBC in terms of people driving around.
And what about the downtown activities that you have from 5 to 9?
Yeah, we'll be working on that as soon as we go. But again, we don't have the ability to spend a lot of time with just part-time staff now on doing a lot of that research ahead of time. So until we knew which way we were going, I just directed staff not to focus on that, just to work on this proposal.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kubek. So that's a good point, Councillor Barkwell. Is there any idea what the insurance might know? Yeah, when you have a roaming Santa, that makes me think that the street is closed and there's people on the street. Councillor Holmes.
I'm just wondering if just a motion to direct staff to work with chamber for an agreement for light up activities for 2001 as per the chamber proposal might be sufficient, and I think our CAO has heard about our concerns about insurance, and you could figure that out.
You're okay with that? Okay, so for 2021, not 20 years ago, but 2021. So would you like to put that motion on the table, Councillor Holmes?
Sure.
Okay, and seconder? Councillor Van Elfen. Any further discussion on this? Could I have you, I'll just give our corporate officer a minute. Make sure that we're voting on what we think we're voting on. Yes, please.
Councillor Holmes, could I have you say that one more time, just to ensure? I think I have it.
No. That council directs staff to work with the chamber on an agreement to hold light up activities for 2021 based on the proposal presented by the chamber on October 12th.
Okay, I will call the question. All in favor? And Councillor Patton, you're good with that?
Yes, I am, Madam Mayor.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay, so now I guess the question is, moving on to the 2022, we've heard from Councillor Holmes and from Councillor Traynor. Any other thoughts, Council, on whether you'd like to defer this, or if you want to make a decision at this point. Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree with Councillor Holmes. It's something that we should have a discussion during budget times. Is it become a budget line item like other festival, or do we include them all in a budget line item? I think it's discussion we need to have further. I'm not prepared to vote on it today. I'd like to table it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Van Elfen. I'm with both you and Councillor Holmes. There's also the grant and aid process to consider as well. Councillor Carlson, you're good. Councillor Barkwell, yes. My apologies, Councillor Trainer, but we're not comfortable with doing this quite now. But I will ask somebody to bring forward a resolution to defer this until another date.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor, if I may.
Oh, yes, please go ahead, Councillor Patton.
Thank you. Did we not ask the chamber, though, to come forward with a 2-year plan? And now that they bring forward a 2-year plan, we say, oh, well, no, we don't want 2 years. We just want 1 year. So I guess my question is why would we put the chamber through that type of work to come up with a 2-year plan, and then we scuttlebutt it at the last minute and say, well, let's just do 1 year? That's where I'm having a little bit of a hard time with this. It was, we've asked them to do something, they've done it for us, and now we cut it back in half and say, well, you know what, this is what we want now. So yeah, I just have concerns in regards. Thank you.
Okay, I don't recall what the previous resolution was. Did it actually call for, well, two things actually. Did it actually call for a 2-year plan? I don't recall that, but that's Kendra's looking that up for us. And my second comment is, from what I can see, and of course, I don't know the ins and outs of all the numbers. I didn't compare one from last time, the one that we have in front of us today, but I don't think a whole lot of extra work had to go into simply representing this. So those are my comments on that. I'll go to Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, I don't see it us scuttling it at all. I see it more in terms of let's look at the bigger picture, and also I don't think it's really I think it'd be not entirely responsible of us to make a decision like this just on the fly without hearing back from staff and having the chamber. I'd like to see the chamber work with staff to come back to us with, this is what we can do, this is what can work with, this is the budget implications, and this is how it fits with Action Fest, and all that sort of things. I don't think that's dissing what the chamber is bringing forward to us. I really appreciate what the chamber is bringing forward to us, and it's something we can work with, and so let's work with it.
Councillor Carlson and then Councillor Barkwell.
And just to add to that, I think that the Festival of Lights will continue in 2022. I know that was kind of up in the air as to if we don't provide funding, is the chamber going to continue to do this, and is the event going to continue? And I think that the event will continue, and I think the district will provide funding, but we need to make sure that that decision is made soundly, and that, as Councillor Holmes says, it's done with consideration of all the other festivals and events that we also want to continue to support and to bring back stronger as COVID hopefully passes away, and we can continue moving on and building up our community and doing all those fun things face to face as we used to.
Councillor Barkwell?
Similarly to other councillors, I'm thinking, well, we have a 2-year plan, but this may not be the plan we want. And so it might be premature to go with it now. It's a starting point for next year. And I think we will be able to make a decision, a much better informed decision, after we've run this year's event, or after they've run this year's event. So I don't have any qualms in holding off on the decision for 2022 at all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barkwell. Would somebody like to bring forward a resolution? Or do we need a resolution? I guess we do, yes. That we, no, that was the last one.
Councillor Trainer.
Councillor Trainer.
I'm just wondering if we do hold off on this, at what point would we give the chamber an answer as to funding or our support? Would that be after budget? I'm just wondering because they'll have to start planning. This event takes a lot of work. So I'm just wondering what the timeline would be approximately on that.
Can you provide some insight, Graham?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would suggest for the consideration of council that if we are looking at the 2022 budget process as creating a potential festivals line item or something to this similar effect, that we would want to, identify that through our budget conversations and as soon as possible in the new year, January or February, be able to give clarity to the chamber. It takes almost a year to plan for an annual festival, so the maximizing the runway for planning is very important, and I think that is what why the chamber is looking for some certainty on that 2-year horizon now. So I think if we can deal through the budget process and early in the new year, be able to give some clarity to the chamber on the extent of the financial contribution, if there is one, and the intent of that festival going forward.
Thank you, Graham. Councillor Carlson.
I can make a motion regarding that then.
Yes, please go ahead.
I would move that council support the return of the Festival of Lights in 2022 and that we discuss the financial contributions during the budget process.
Seconder. Excuse me, seconder, Councillor Van Elfen. Any further discussion? I would also encourage the Chamber of Commerce to look at our grant and aid process as well. That's something that's open to nonprofits, so. Okay. If there's no further discussion, all in favor? And any opposed? Councillor Patton?
In favor, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Patton. Okay, that's unanimous then.
Thank you.
So thank you again for your time today, Mr. Kubek and Mr. Byro. And look forward to hearing what you and staff have come up with. Thank you. Bye-bye. Do we have anybody that is interested in commenting? No. Okay, so that gets us, well, we're still a little bit behind. On to business items, 7.1, permissive tax exemption 2022 to 2025 nonprofit organizations, bylaw number 2021-036. And you'll remember that we discussed this last meeting. So just a consideration of PTEs for 2022 to 2025. Councillor Van Elfen.
With the resolution on the floor, Madam Mayor, that the permissive tax exemption 2022 to 2025 nonprofit organization bylaw number 2021-036 be read a first, second, and third time.
Thank you, Councillor Van Elfen. They're all listed there, so is there a seconder for that motion, Councillor Holmes? And then any further discussions or questions on the amounts that are showing? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that carries unanimously. On to 7.2, update to the Parks Regulation Bylaw, number 95-013, and council will have received more correspondence on this very recently. That's for you, Lori, right?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think we're just loading the slide presentation here. Here we go. All right, the purpose of this council report is for council to consider proposed changes to the Parks Regulation Bylaw and to provide staff initial input prior to an amended or new bylaw being presented to council for review and adoption. The current Parks Regulation Bylaw, number 95-013, was adopted in 1995 and has had two minor amendments in 2007 and 2008. And it is provided in the council agenda package as attachment 2. Staff have flagged this bylaw for review and updating and are proposing a stepped process in developing amended or new policy for council's consideration, starting with a review of other municipal parks bylaws, which staff have done. Well, to date, we have researched Penticton, Peachland, West Kelowna, Revelstoke, Sooke, and Cowichan Valley, and those have been provided as examples of good parks bylaws, and we've used some of their language as recommendations in this report. The second step is to gain initial input from council on some of the proposed key areas for change, which is what we're doing today. Then to follow up with some community engagement by going to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, park user groups, the Summerland Dog Owners Association, and district staff on proposed changes, and then finally returning back to council with an amended or updated bylaw for council's consideration. So I'll go through a few different sections. The first, and then I'll pause after each section and we can get council's input before we move on to the next one. So starting with dogs in parks, the current regulation states that no person shall cause or permit any animal to be on any park except where permission has been granted by municipal bylaw or has been obtained from the council. Dogs shall be permitted in Peach Orchard Park between October 1st and May 1st each year, with the exception of the playground area and the Spirit Square gazebo area. Attachment 3 in council's package is the consultant's report regarding land use planning for tennis, pickleball, and dogs in parks. The consultant outlined recommended changes to the parks bylaw regarding dogs in parks, which I'm highlighting today for council's consideration and initial input. So the first recommendation is to allow all year on-leash dogs at Memorial Park, Dale Meadows Park, Living Memorial Park, Peach Orchard Beach Park, Powell Beach Park, Peach Orchard Campground, Giants Head Park, Conkle Mountain Park, and the Summerland Rodeo Grounds, with the exception of being on sports fields, on the beach, or near playgrounds and spray parks, and staff have added in sport parks and skate parks as potential exclusions as well. The consultant's report also is recommending that all year off-leash dog parks are at designated District of Summerland off-leash parks only. So right now that would be the Peach Orchard Dog Beach and the temporary fenced off-leash dog park that we're putting up today at Dale Meadows. It's the fencing is being delivered today and they're setting it up as we speak. And then the third recommendation around dogs is to allow off-season, off-leash dogs at Powell Beach Park, Conkle Mountain Park, Summerland Rodeo Grounds, and Giants Head Mountain Park during the off-season, in addition to what's existing right now, which is the Peach Orchard Beach Park. And council may recall that we did allocate some funding of $5,800 in the operating budget for signage and a promotion campaign. Once the new regulations around dogs have been confirmed, then we can do an education process around that. So I'd just like to pause for a moment here to see if we have any additional council input around dogs in parks.
Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, just wondering, for on-leash dogs in the parks, are the actual parks named in the bylaw? Because there are other ones, like smaller ones, like the Turner Street Park and whatnot. And so does that mean dogs can't be on leash in those little parks?
Through Madam Mayor to Councillor Holmes. Right now, dogs aren't allowed anywhere if you look at our bylaw. And so the intention was to list the parks where they would be allowed on leash. So anything that's not reflected would be an indication that they're technically not allowed through this method. And the reason the consultant listed them and didn't include smaller parks is because of the size of the parks, and they felt it was more appropriate to focus on large parks for dogs.
Councillor Barkwell?
Two things, I think. Madam Mayor, I think we should allow dogs on a leash in the smaller parks, neighborhood parks. People out for a walk with their dog, they would probably stop there. And also, are there any riding events at the rodeo grounds after October 1st?
Through Madam Mayor, our last booking was October 2nd, so we don't have any official bookings at the Summerland Rodeo grounds.
I don't think you want to have off-leash dogs when you have a riding event. There's a lot of places where dogs aren't allowed at all, on or off, because they can be problems. So horses and dogs don't mix well.
Doesn't the Summerland, I can't remember the name of the association, but don't they have a, probably not this year, but a Halloween kind of thing?
That was October 2nd.
Oh, that was October. Oh, they've already had it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Mayor Boot, may I ask a question? It's Erin.
Yes, you go ahead, and then I'll go to Councillor Carlson.
Okay, sorry, I can't see anybody right now. I can only see the presentation. So my question is for Lori. For off-season, off-leash dogs, how come Peach Orchard Campground is not included in there? Like, if it's not being used in the off-season, could people have their dogs off-leash in that park?
Through Madam Mayor to Councillor Traynor, that was one of the questions the consultant did pose to staff, and through the recommendation of the Public Works Department, it was removed from the list. They felt that that area could be subject to requiring extra maintenance for dog pickup, so operational budget considerations around that. However, if this is something council wants us to add to this list, we could. Another concern from Public Works was just the potential damage of dogs in that area. But it had been discussed and was excluded based on staff recommendation in the consultant's report.
Okay, do we have any idea, and I actually don't expect you to have this off the top of your head, but what the additional cost would be if we were to open that? Or to allow dogs in off-season?
I don't have those offhand, but I could get that information and bring it back when I come back to council.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to just see if we could add that option. I mean, I realize staff aren't supportive of it, but if we could just have a bit more information on it, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Traynor. Councillor Carlson.
Thank you. I have a question about off-leash, off-season dogs. I'll note that there's a few options there: Peach Orchard, Powell, Conkle. So there are places that if I wanted to go today to run my dog off leash, I could do that. I'll note that Dale Meadows Park is not on there. And so I'm wondering, what is it that the district can do to discourage people from running their dogs off leash on sports fields? Because we know I mean, I was at Dale Meadows yesterday and I saw a dozen dogs running around on sports fields off leash. And so I'm just wondering, how can we encourage people to go to the places where we'd like them to run their dogs and discourage them from running on High School Field and Dale Meadows Field, for example?
Through Madam Mayor to Councillor Carlson, the intention of adding these new areas as an area where dogs can go will help our bylaw officers be able to enforce where dogs shouldn't be going or where we don't want dogs to go. So that was the intention of these recommendations, is to create more areas where dogs are allowed, and to help us ensure that it's not happening in the areas we don't.
Councillor Barkwell?
I presume that the reason people have their dogs in the sports fields is because it's a large fenced area. Is there any reason why we couldn't allow off-season, off-leash use of the sports fields for dogs in one soccer pitch or some fenced area or another?
Through Madam Mayor to Councillor Barkwell, we did look at that. It is not recommended to have mixed use of dogs on sports fields because of the damage that they do to the turf and the required repairs that are needed. So the consultant was focusing on other large park areas that were not sports fields.
You follow up, Councillor Barkwell?
I'm not really comfortable with that explanation. It doesn't seem to me like the dogs would do any more damage than playing soccer on the pitch would do. And other than the fact that it might be in the winter when the grass doesn't grow back as quickly, it just, it doesn't seem like it would. I don't know. I think I'd like to see us give it a shot. And maybe if it gets overused, it could, be an impact in the spring when you start. But heck, sometimes it's so wet up there at Dale Meadows, they don't start on time anyway. Yeah.
Just before I go to Councillor Van Elfen and Carlson, I just want to say that if everybody was responsible for picking up after their dog, it wouldn't be such an issue for somebody to send out their kids to play soccer or ball or whatever on those fields after the winter season. But that doesn't happen, and it's pretty disgusting. Just saying. Councillor Van Elfen and then Councillor Carlson, and then we'll go back to you, Councillor Barkwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd go along with staff on this one on the sports fields. Like, I'm a dog owner. I have a farm. I have 2 border collies that prefer to use the lawn other than any other area of the whole farm. And every spring there's big yellow dead spots on my lawn because they urinate on the lawn. And that's what happens to grass when dogs do that. So that's another issue that our sports fields would have, that they burn the grass and it takes a long time for that to come back. So I agree with staff. Like, I wouldn't want them on the sports fields either. Thank you.
Councillor Carlson?
And I think we've had that conversation, right? That's why we're not allowing dogs to go in, especially if we just chose one, because then it would all of a sudden be a sanctioned fenced dog park, and that would, you'd get dozens of people there every single day, and it would absolutely destroy that field. So I think that where we're going with this is good. My suggestion is that, maybe at Dale Meadows, we can post a sign that says, take your dog if you want to run it off leash, go to these places, instead of having to always be there to enforce it, because I think people are just looking for somewhere to go, and maybe they don't know that there's other options. So, thank you.
Councillor Barkwell?
The Dog Owners Society wants us to provide a grassed, fenced, large dog area. So from what I'm hearing here, there doesn't seem like a lot of chance that the grass area in a permanent, proper dog park, which would be even smaller, is going to survive very well. But maybe it doesn't matter if it doesn't look like anything because it's not being used for sports. But And just as an aside, okay, you've convinced me.
Okay, oh, Councillor Holmes.
Just a question, if I may, if there's any concerns with Giant's Head Mountain. Giant's Head Park is Giant's Head Mountain? Yeah. Having them off leash there, some of those trails are pretty narrow and you meet oncoming traffic. And I know, you know, not everybody is totally comfortable with having a dog off leash running at them. So, you know, for that mountain, have people hiking up it. I'd have some concern about dogs running off leash on a narrow trail.
Okay, so given the comments that you've heard, where do we go from here?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's good feedback, and I will be putting those questions forward to the other groups if the council resolution about community engagement proceeds. So I can get some feedback from the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee about Giant's Head Mountain Park as well. And when I come back with a draft document, we can have another discussion around that if you'd like.
Okay, Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, and I'd also like to get feedback from the committee and else about also having them on the smaller parks. You know, there's the Turner Street and there's the Bentley Road one by the highway, and I'm sure there's others. Yeah, those ones down there. Yeah.
Mayor Boot, may I add something?
Yes, please go ahead, Councillor Trainer.
Okay, I think Councillor Holmes brought up a really good point about Giant's Head Park. I'm definitely in favor of having dogs up there on leash, but because that park is so heavily used now by a bunch of different groups like cyclists and hikers and runners, having dogs off leash I have seen there be some conflicts. You know, if a runner goes running up Giant's Head and a dog's off leash, sometimes the dog will chase the runner. So I think that there is more potential for conflict in that park just because, again, of how people are using it and the amount of people. So getting feedback from the Parks and Rec Commission would be really good in terms of the off-leash times. Again, I'm totally in support of on-leash. It's just the off-leash. I can see potential for a conflict there.
Okay, let's carry on.
Thank you. So moving on to Horse Beach, staff were considering including Horse Beach approved uses in the Parks Regulation Bylaw. However, upon further review of the property, the north section is designated park and the south section is Crown Land. The park is noted as a natural area in the 2018 Parks and Recreation Master Plan and has no amenities except for a garbage can. While there is signage regarding regulations for uses of horse owners and that there should be no dogs there, there is very little enforcement. Local dog owners have expressed the importance of this property to take their dogs for swimming and for exercise. Other activities such as paddleboarding, non-motorized watercraft launching from this beach, swimming and relaxing on the beach have all been observed. Because of the growth of the popularity of this property, and the complexities of zoning, riparian area, user and neighbor conflicts, and liability concerns, staff have included this property in the waterfront concept plan underway this fall. By further researching this property and obtaining community input, the recommendation included in the waterfront concept plan will assist staff and council in confirming appropriate uses at Horse Beach. And if necessary, the Parks Regulation Bylaw will reflect any required amendments at a later date. So I just pause to see if there's any comments or concerns with that approach.
Thank you, Laurie. Just a question for clarification. So the 16997 lot number that shows there, is it that particular lot that is partly Crown and partly District, or is this the District portion?
So that numbered outlined area is the district land. And
Okay.
if you just go south of that, you can see there's
Yes.
nothing there. That area, which is where you drive in, and that space is Crown land.
Crown land. Okay, thank you. Any thoughts on this? Sounds like a good plan to me. Yeah?
Okay.
Councillor Trainer Patton? Okay, let's go on to the boats.
All right, moving into boats. Current regulation states boats and water skiers shall not be allowed in areas designated as public swimming areas by the use of floating buoys or other suitable markers. So we have some recommendations to change boats and water skiers to boats and other motorized watercraft to include things such as jet skis. To add that no person may launch or load motorized watercraft unless in a designated boat launch area. Continue to allow for non-motorized watercraft at beaches and swimming areas, however, state no person may use non-motorized watercraft in a manner that endangers, disturbs, or interferes with the use of the beach and swimming area by members of the public. And to add that buoys or other apparatus in any water adjacent to any municipal beach, except with permission of the council, shall not be removed. We have had some issues of people stealing our buoys. Any questions or comments? Okay. Moving on to fires, current regulation states that no person shall cause to be ignited any fire within a park except where proper fire pits have been placed for the convenience of the public. And it is recommended that we do include a reference to our fire and life safety bylaw number 2421 in the parks regulation bylaw.
All good?
Oops, sorry. You missed my picture of a fire.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to commercial uses in parks. Current regulation states no person may sell any refreshments or any article or thing or conduct any business in a park except with the permission of council. So we are recommending to change to conducting business or providing a commercial service in a park is prohibited except as authorized by a permit. The Community Services Department would review and issue permits for event rental contracts, which include commercial activities, as well as implement the seasonal food truck program. Any commercial activities beyond that would go to council for review and approval, and that would be for something like a request for seasonal use of our park for paddleboard rentals or any other sort of extended commercial uses.
I just have one question on that. So does this also apply to if someone is having an event, say in Memorial Park, and there's food trucks as part of that event? They have to get a permit for the food trucks as well as use of the park?
This is intended so that it would be an authorized use of the park through the permit agreement of booking the park. So if pretty much what we're doing right now, it just says that we can do what we're doing.
Yes, okay. Yeah, because we've recently changed that. Okay, thank you.
And then we also have a commercial fee that will be coming into play for 2022 through the fees and charges for anything that's a commercial use in a park. So we would do that through a permitting process.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, on to vehicles and parks.
The current regulation states, with the exception of municipal vehicles, no person shall drive or allow or permit a vehicle to be driven or to be parked within a park except in the areas specifically provided for such purposes. Provided, however, that nothing in this section continued shall prevent any bicyclist having first dismounted from his bicycle from taking the same upon the grass or along any sidewalk, pathway, footpath in any park. The regulation goes on to outline other permit requirements for vehicles in Memorial Park. So our recommendations, well, first of all, staff recognize that vehicles in parks cause damage to grass, sport field turf, tree roots, trees, and park infrastructure such as irrigation. Staff note that events such as the annual car show and the dog show have allowed for several vehicles to be permitted, which has caused some damage to the parks. It is recommended that vehicles are restricted in parks unless essential to the event and only with staff approval through the park permitting process. It is recommended to change this section of the regulation to reference all parks, not just Memorial Park, and to state that vehicles are to be parked at a park only in designated parking areas. No vehicles are permitted to park overnight at a park or remain in a park during the hours that the park is closed. Vehicles left in a park after closing will be locked in unless otherwise posted. Owners or operators of vehicles locked in after closing must wait until the next scheduled opening to remove their vehicle or will be subject to all the associated fees with an after-hours call-out. And with the exception of municipal vehicles, no person shall drive or allow or permit a vehicle to be driven or to be parked within any park, except in the areas specifically provided for such purposes or as approved in writing through the park permitting process. Special conditions will apply, which includes event maps, on-site meetings, and no vehicle zones to protect the park green spaces and infrastructure. Any questions?
Just for clarification then, because the car show requires cars as part of their event, other than areas where they're not allowed to park to protect green infrastructure, they'll be able to continue to reserve that park, use that park, Memorial Park? Is that what that means?
So that is the intention of what's written here right now.
Okay.
What we would do is similar to what we've done if they were going to if it was going to happen this year, which we went out on site, they created a map. We were going to place markers all around the tree roots and spray paint or put some barricades around the areas that we wanted to protect, which would limit their footprint somewhat. But it was kind of a happy medium that we negotiated with them for this year, and that's something we'd like to continue with.
Yeah, what about the dismounting bicyclists? Will they be staying or is something replace them to talk about bikes?
My intention was not to include it unless council would like to have some reference to bicycles in there.
Well, just follow up then. I mean, we don't necessarily want people riding their bikes all around Memorial Park, or do we? I don't know. But I guess that was the intent of that fairly eloquently stated passage. But so we just won't have any reference to bicycles at all?
That was the intention, but we can, if council has some input around including some references to bicycles, we can have a look at that. We didn't see it in other bylaws, so except for the exact same wording as this is in Penticton. So I have a feeling one of them came first and copied the other, but that was the only reference we could find.
So you're not concerned with cyclists on a walking path and pedestrians walking along and the possibilities of collisions and stuff? That's my concern. I know we ran into it, not me, my wife, at the farmer's market downtown, and constantly asking people to kindly dismount their bikes and walk it through, because they're riding through all these people, they're looking at what's for sale and they're not paying attention to where they're going. And there's just opportunities for collisions and what have you. So I don't have a problem with dismounting, if you're in a park area where there's other people and possibly children playing in the parks and stuff like that.
Through Madam Mayor to Councillor Van Elfen, we have had questions about say Lakeshore Pathway down by the waterfront, which is going through our parks, and it is mixed use right now. We don't have any signage. We've had questions, is this for walkers only, or can people on their bikes go on that path. So at this point, we've kind of just said it is a multi-use. And so that's, by being silent on that, we would be saying that it would be hopefully reasonable use of mixed use of cyclists, skateboarders, walkers, dog walkers, unless we want to specify something around requiring people to dismount when they're on our pathways or sidewalks in our parks.
So then I can use my motorized skateboard? I haven't bought one yet, but I was thinking about it.
Oh, Councillor Holmes, you go ahead first.
Yeah, I can see if it's not an issue right now, then we don't need to deal with it. It might be something we might have to deal with it as we get more, motorized. I was just in Victoria, you wouldn't believe how many motorized, not those skateboards, but those two little wheels that, go around all over the place. And as people have more and more e-bikes and things, it could become an issue at some point in the future. But if it's not an issue now, then, we can deal with it if it becomes one.
Would that be, I'm surprised that bicycles would be considered a vehicle anyways, a motorized, well, no, I guess they are kind of a vehicle, not a motorized vehicle. Never mind that. I'm not sure where that would be put in if we revisit this later, but. Okay, any other questions on this or comments? Okay.
Moving on to special events and park bookings. As there is no current reference to special events and park bookings, it is recommended to add that any special event, organized sport, or organized activity taking place in a park requires a park booking permit issued through the Community Services Department. Event or activity organizers are required to follow the park booking application process, provide park booking insurance and licensing requirements, comply with all laws, statutes, enactments, bylaws, and regulations, and pay all associated park booking fees where applicable. Any new large-scale events and requests for event exemption, any large new-scale events or requests for event exemptions from the parks bylaw would require approval from council.
Thoughts on this one, council? Councillors Traynor or Patton?
I'm fine, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, let's go on to references to existing bylaws.
It is recommended to add a reference to the outdoor smoking regulation bylaw regarding prohibition of smoking in parks, swimming, beaches, and walkways. And it is also recommended to reference the Good Neighbor bylaw in the parks bylaw to highlight other requirements around noise regulations, public space nuisance, graffiti, explosives, and fireworks. So we're not referencing those in this, or we're not proposing to reference these items in the details around these bylaws, but rather reference the bylaws themselves. And so if these change, then we don't have to change the parks bylaw.
I'm confused. So outdoor smoking regulations bylaw regarding prohibition of smoking, do we add and vaping?
Through Madam Mayor, that is, it includes, there's a whole definition around it.
Okay,
So
I
think it has
appreciate.
vaping and cannabis and
Okay.
a variety of other things in
Thank
that
you.
bylaw.
Hey, any further comments on either of these? On to chattels.
Our bylaw department highlighted the need to add a section on chattels in the parks regulation bylaw. Chattels means, and I didn't know what it was, but now I do. It means a movable item of personal property, including watercraft, vehicles, camping equipment, and other items. It is recommended to add chattels unattended in a park or public space is prohibited. And it is also recommended that a section is added to permit the impound, storage, and disposal of chattels, and some sample wording which has been Copied from another bylaw is outlined in the council report for your consideration.
Comments on this one?
It's true, it's a good one.
On to other recommendations.
And final recommendations from staff are to include these additional clauses, which we've viewed in other municipal parks bylaws, which is to add any gravel, sand, or earth from any part of any beach or shore of the Okanagan Lake within the corporate limits of the District of Summerland shall not be taken away. To add that no person may interfere with or feed birds or fowl, or birds of fowl, sorry. Add a valid permit from the District of Summerland is required for any person who wishes to operate a remote control driven boat, car, aircraft, glider, drone, or similar device within a park or public space. And to define park to match the outdoor smoking regulation bylaw, which is defined as any property owned or occupied by the district for the purpose of pleasure, recreation, or community use by the public, including but not limited to dedicated parks and trails, but does not include district property leased to a third party. So just having some consistency between our bylaws is the definition of park.
Any thoughts? Comments, Councillor Patton or Councillor Trainer?
No, I'm fine with that one too, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. So final council input. Councillor Barkwell.
Yeah, how does this one sort of relate to the fact that I think a lot of land that we use as parks isn't zoned as park? And so it's just to, and does our bylaw, I guess that means that the bylaws will apply to this land that isn't zoned properly as a park yet. Because one time staff came to council and said there was quite a bit of property that wasn't zoned park that was being used. I'd have to look, but I remember that came up at one time.
Through Madam Mayor to Councillor Barkwell, are you referring to dedicated parks versus zoned park?
Well, I guess I'm not really clear on the difference. Yeah.
Because there are, I think everything we're referencing here would be properties that are zoned parkland.
Okay.
But there are many parks that are not dedicated as parkland.
Okay. Yeah. So what is the difference?
I think there's some restrictions when you dedicate a park that about if you were to change that, there's some restrictions around it. So it just solidifies the parkland, but I would have to refer to our Director of Development Services to give a fulsome definition of the two.
It makes it harder if it's dedicated because you have to involve the province. But maybe, oh, great. Let's go to staff here on the other side of the room.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just, it might be that we have to report back to council on that, but under the existing bylaw, the definition of parks includes public parks, playgrounds, green spaces, beaches, and then it says in other places under custody, care, and management of the District of Summerland. So it seems to be a fairly broad definition. So it might be the intent is that some of these rules apply in those other areas of custody, care, and management as well, but we'll have to circle back with council on the direct answer to that question.
Yeah, because you're going to change something. Okay.
Kendra, do you have any further insight on the dedicated park? Yeah, okay. Thank you. I think it must be in legislation somewhere because I know I've read it. Okay, so any other questions or comments for Lori to consider?
Mayor Boot, I just have a final comment if that's okay.
Yes, please go ahead, Councillor Trainer.
Just on that last slide, I'm just actually looking at the report right now. And there's actually another, never mind, it is here. A valid permit for any person who wishes to operate a remote control driven boat, blah, 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 and drone. I think that that's a good one because I've been on Giant's Head a couple times and a drone has appeared out of nowhere. And I don't know where it is. I don't know who's operating it. It's just hovering over the top of Giant's Head and it's kind of weird. So I don't know how you would enforce that because especially with a drone, you don't know where it's being operated from. But I think that as long as we have it mentioned in here that that's our intention, that we don't want drones used unless you have a permit, I think that is really important because it is kind of bizarre when a drone appears out of nowhere and you're in a park. That was just a comment.
Okay. Would someone like to bring forward a resolution? Councillor Van Alphen, thank you.
That the Parks Regulation Bylaw 95-013 report from the Director of Community Services dated October 12, 2021 be received for information, and that staff consult with Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, Parks user groups, and the Summerland Dog Owners Association, and further that staff return to council at a future meeting with an amended or new Parks Regulation Bylaw for council's consideration.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Holmes, further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Great, that carries unanimously. Now on to 7.3, Council Procedure Bylaw Amendment number 2021-037, and this goes to Kendra.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So before council is a series of amendments to the council procedure bylaw to allow for electronic meetings and other general housekeeping amendments. So with the expiration of Order M192 on September 28th, 2021, and the introduction of Bill 10, the passing of Bill 10, with the amendments to the community charter, council now is authorized to amend their procedure bylaw to allow for changes to allow for electronic meetings. So the draft amendments that are before council we would change section 5.1 to state that all council meetings must take place within municipal hall and by electronic means to reflect our current practices. We have 2 housekeeping amendments to delete that notices are left in council chambers drawers at the front, as that's a practice I understand that's not currently being followed, and that we send them electronically. Further to that, section 8 would be deleted and replaced with 2 sections split into section 8 and 9. The first part of section 8 would deal with electronic meetings. So this would allow council meetings, both a special and a regular, a committee of the whole and a committee meeting to be held entirely by electronic means. It also updates the public notice as required by the legislation. And section 9 would allow for electronic participation, which is already similar to what the bylaw currently states, just a little bit more clarified. So this would allow for electronic participation in a council meeting, a regular council meeting, a special council meeting, a committee of the whole meeting, and a committee meeting. And keeping in line with the current procedure bylaw, the presiding member would not be able to participate electronically to keep in spirit that it is still an in-person meeting and not a fully electronic meeting. We are also proposing amendments to the Committee of the Whole section. This would allow Committee of the Wholes to be held by non-electronic means and would give us the choice if we wanted to or not to stream it, which is a practice we're currently following. And the final amendment is another housekeeping amendment, and to my understanding, recommended or requested by council, is to have members of a committee partake in bullying and harassment training or any other training as required by the district.
Thank you, Kendra. Council, questions of our corporate officer? Okay, could I have someone bring forward a recommendation, please, a resolution? Councillor Van Alphen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That council procedure amendment bylaw number 2021-037 be read a first, second, and third time.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Holmes. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? That carries unanimously. Thank you. Uh, 7.4, RDOS Director Appointments. And this is for Kendra as well.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So before council is the RDOS appointments for the 2021-2022 year. Council may choose to appoint 2 municipal directors to sit on the board, and additionally, council may choose to appoint 2 alternate directors as well. So staff today are looking for a recommendation on which of those council members would like to sit on the RDOS board.
Great, thank you, Kendra. Sorry, I forgot to turn my mic off. Council, we need 2 appointments for directors, and we need 2 appointments for alternate directors in case the sitting directors are unable to attend. Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If it's appropriate through yourself, is it okay to ask Councillor Trainer and Councillor Holmes if they're interested in serving another term? Is that appropriate to ask that question?
Is that what you're proposing in terms of the resolution?
No, I'm just curious to see if they're even interested before names are brought forward at all. Is that okay, or do I just put names forward?
I think it's okay. Yeah. Okay. So, Councillor Trainer.
Yes, I would very much like to serve another year. I've really enjoyed the year that I have been on, and I've learned a lot. And I think that having that year behind me will serve me really well for another year. Yeah, I've enjoyed it, and I think I would definitely still like to be on it if I have the support of the rest of council.
Councillor Holmes?
Yes, I'd be interested in continuing.
And is there anyone else that would like to put their name forward other than myself? Nope. Councillor Barkwell? Oh, yeah, okay. Potentially for alternate. So we have 3 people looking for appointment to 2 seats. I guess now's the time for a resolution. Councillor Van Elfen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That, oh boy, let me read this. That Councillor Trainer and Councillor Holmes be appointed as directors of the District of Summerland on the Regional District of Okanagan-Slocoming Board for 2022, and that Barkwell Van Elfen be appointed as the alternate directors for the District of Summerland on the Regional District Okanagan-Slocoming Board for 2022.
Okay, seconder. Councillor Carlson. Further discussion? Councillor Van Elfen.
I really wanted to do this somewhere during my term, but you know, it just hasn't worked out for me personally. I know I asked the question year 1, like, what do I have to do, apply, or, you know, and I don't know, like, I just think in the future, it might be something like the mayor's schedule for the year. You know, maybe we can look at it in our first, if the next council's first term, if that's what they want to do, that this year is so-and-so, next year it's so-and-so, next year it's, you know, and if they're willing to do it, it might be a thought. But, you know, I'm very pleased with what I see. I'm very pleased with the reports that are coming out. So I'm just kind of going with the status quo at this point.
Okay. Anyone else? I'd just like to say that as we've seen from our own experiences, and as we've seen from other regional districts, there is a move to acknowledge that a mayor should represent their community if they choose to do so, or the mayor's delegate or designate when there's just one position on the board. Secondly, I would like to say that at the beginning of this term, I did reach out to all of council to ask if they'd like to sit on the RDOS. And it was decided that we would look at this from year to year. And it was also discussed then that we should make it an available position for everyone. And at the beginning of this term, everyone but Councillor Carlson was interested in taking a turn at the RDOS table. Councillor Holmes has been on the RDOS for 3 consecutive years, and this would be his 4th year. And for that reason, I will be voting against this resolution because I think that there should be mayoralty representation on the RDOS. Thank you. So if there's no further discussion, I will call the question. All in favor? And Councillor Patton, I can't see your hand, but I will ask opposed. Okay, so that carries, and I am opposed. Thank you.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, did we get Doug's answer? Doug
I-
Patton's-
He is.
Madam Mayor, I was fine with what was put forward.
Yeah, I give the opportunity to do opposed. Okay, so that is Councillor Traynor and Councillor Holmes on the RDOS, and Councillor Barkwell and Councillor Van Elfen as alternate directors. Okay, on to item 8, there's nothing there. 9, public and media comment period, nothing. Okay, so item 10 is a resolution to close the meeting to the public. Councillor Holmes and Councillor Carlson, all in favor? Okay. Thank you, Lori. It's been a long day for you in council chambers today.